We're almost ready here. I think we just have to get Max on. I'll send him another. Oh, there we go.
Yes, I'm there.
Perfect. Okay, I think we have everyone on here, so let's get started. Yeah, so as many of you know, there are federal by-elections coming up on June 19th in 4 ridings across Canada. Today, Natasha and I are joined with PPC candidates who are currently running their campaigns to become the next MPs in the House of Commons. We have Tiny Olinga running in NDG Westmount, Quebec, Wendy Martin in Oxford, Ontario, Tyler Bear in Winnipeg South Centre, Manitoba, and of course, leader of the PPC, Maxime Bernier in Portage Liscar. That's in Manitoba. Thanks everyone for taking the time out of your schedules to be here.
I'm very pleased to be here. Thank you very much.
So, yeah, we'll get started with you then, Max. Um, Max was previously a member of parliament for the Conservative Party and held multiple cabinet positions before leaving them in 2018 because, in his words, they've become morally and intellectually corrupt. That's when he founded the People's Party of Canada, which has since become the fastest growing party in Canadian history, receiving over 800,000 votes in the previous general election. The riding of Portage Liscar in southern Manitoba is where the PPC had its best showing, receiving over 20% of the vote. Max, this is where you're currently campaigning to get a seat back in Ottawa. So I'm just going to ask you directly, are you going to win this election?
I'm doing everything to win, and I believe that I will. Why? Because this riding is a conservative riding. When I'm saying conservative, conservative minded people. So, and now the Conservative Party of Canada is not conservative anymore. He is only conservative in name only. And that's why I said in 2018, when we created the People's Party, that the Conservative Party is morally and intellectually corrupt. They don't fight for what is important. And here in that campaign right now, we are fighting for families and fighting for families' values. I can give you an example. We did a press conference a couple of days ago speaking about abortion. And as you know, Poliev won't speak about that. He won't reopen the debate on abortion. And we are the only country in the Western world that is still having no restriction on abortion. And that's why we must have a law that will prohibit late term abortion, because for me it's a crime, it's a murder when you do an abortion at 6, 7, and 8 months. The baby is there. So, but it's not happening in other countries. In every country in Europe, they have legislation to ban abortion after the second trimester. But here you can have an abortion until a couple of hours before giving birth. So that's an important subject. Canada must be back in the civilized world, and we are not. But for Poliev and all these establishment political parties, they're okay with that. So after 35 years, we are killing the on board in Canada. It's about 100 abortion, late term abortion happen in our country every year, and we must stop that. So that's why I think this riding is a good riding, great people, and they want to fight to regain our country, and I'm very pleased to be here. I will campaign. I'm in the riding right now. Every day I'm doing campaigning, meeting people until the end of June 19, and we'll see what will happen. The biggest challenge that we have in this riding is to get our message out there. We are canceled by the mainstream national media, but in the riding, it's going a little bit better with the local media. And as you know, the participation rate in a by election is always very, very low. So our goal is to have our supporters and to go out and to vote and to speak to their families and friends for them not to forget to vote Monday, June 19. So we'll see what will happen. But, I'm very, very pleased with the campaign up to now. And actually, it's going well because I'm asking the conservative candidate to do a debate with me, and no answer. he doesn't want to debate. The conservatives don't want to debate real conservative ideas. But I'll try to have a debate with him before the end of the campaign. And so, yeah, it's fun. It's a good campaign. And answering your question, I believe that I can win that riding and be back in Parliament, and having a new voice in Parliament, a common sense voice, and starting that peaceful common sense revolution.
Excellent. I think that we desperately need some PPC candidates in there, because right now I feel like that there are 338 MPs and none of them really represent my morals or values. So just having a few PPCU and maybe we can get some other ones in as well would make a huge difference in changing the narrative. So we're going to have lots of questions for you, but first I would like to introduce some of the other candidates running in the by-elections as well. So Natasha, if you want to
Yeah.
ask. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I'm very happy to be here. I'm excited to meet the new candidates. And Max, welcome back. It's always great to talk to you. Tiny, I was wondering if we could start with you. So Tiny Alinga is going to be running in NDG Westmount. It is a riding I know well, as I lived in both NDG and Westmount at different times in my life. I'm a Quebecer like you are. He's going to be running he was running first in Longueuil-Charlemagne in 2021 on the South Shore. So that's a nearby riding to the island of Montreal. And Marc Garneau stepped down, so that triggered the by-election. And Tiny, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your plan for the by-election.
Tiny, just unmute yourself, the bottom left corner there.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. And about myself, I don't know if you mean my background. My background, I have a bachelor in agricultural sciences, and I have a master's degree in international law. I went to Russia from France. I went to Russia to complete my PhD. Then this is the background, and here I have a company. I was subcontractors of Bell Canada and Canadian Tire later. Canadian Tire. I work here in Quebec, and then I went to New Brunswick in Moncton. And about the politics, I am in the politics since I was still young, very young even, because I'm from Africa, and the country in which I'm coming from, Cameroon, I still have my family who is doing the politics in the different steps. But me, I leave Africa for a very long time, about 30 years ago. And this is my new country. I cannot say new country because I've been here for 15 years. But why I am running, why I'm very determined in the politics, especially with PPC, is two reasons. The main one is when I see the platform answer right away to all of my questions. The question of immigration, for instance, if when I see now the Europe is not the France, Italy, Greece, is not the Europe that I knew 30 years ago. And my children, all my children were born here, and I don't want them to live what people are living now in Europe. They have no more value because they open all the border. Many people came, and there is not culture. People are doing what they want. I know many have many, not friends, but people who are coming from the same country like me. They are living in France. They have 3 wives, despite the fact that in France, according to the law, somebody can have only 1 wife, and she have 10 children, 15 children. They are living with the money of the tax money of French. I don't want this to happen here. That's why I say that every country have its own law, its own jurisdiction, its own value. And when somebody come to the country, you need to follow those values. He cannot come and to impose what he used to do in his country. It's what happened in Europe, and if we don't care, it will happen. It will happen here, because I remember that in one my son, my first son, when he was in daycare 10 years ago, there's one. Uh, the woman who did that care, she said that one parent came there and said that they don't need to give the pork meat anymore, because not only for his children, but for all the children of this daycare, because here is a democracy, and we don't need to cook the meat pork. When I see it, I'm just saying that Maxime is viewing all the problem of the issues that will happen. It just prevent or see all those things in advance. And despite the fact that we are living now, there's a democracy, there's globalism everywhere, but every country must keep the values. The values is very important, not only for immigration, for everything. And every time I listen, Maxime, I have hope. I hope that there is still people who can stand for the population, and that's why I'm very motivated in this party. For me, I say it doesn't matter how long it will be for me, but yeah, I will take my time, and I'm very determined to do something so that
For the
to
party.
contribute to build this country. Thank
I'm
you.
just going to jump in, Tiny. You have a fascinating bio, and it sounds like you're someone who's going to be willing to have the conversations that tend to make Canadians uncomfortable about, Islamification in Europe, mass migration, the influences that these decisions have on our economy, our housing, as well as our culture. And we can get into that a little bit later, but I'd like to continue going around just to meet the other candidates. So I'm going to hand it over to you now, Brett. So Tiny, you can mute yourself, and then we'll just continue going around the room. Thank you.
Okay, so it looks like we had some connection issues with Wendy and Max. We'll get them back on. I'll work on that. Actually, maybe Natasha, I'll have a question here for Tyler, and you can see if you can get them back on.
Yep, they're both coming. I see Wendy now, and I see Max as well, so it won't be long.
Okay, right on. Okay, here's Wendy. I'd like to get to her next, so let's do that. Invite, add as a speaker. Wendy, can you hear me? Wendy, the mute button in the...
Yep, sorry about that, guys. I'm in the Dominican Republic, and you lose power every now and then, so.
Okay, well, hopefully you can be with us here for a little bit now. So, Wendy, you are... you're in the Dominican. Okay, so Wendy Martin was born and raised in Brantford, where she built her home and raised a family. In 2014, she moved to Norwich in Oxford County. A mother of twins, a grandmother of 2 little girls, Wendy is active actively involved in her community and is serving as the acting chair in the Accessibility Committee in the Township of Norwich for her third term. She also volunteers for the BIA and Nostalgia Day Festival. Wendy holds a certificate in human resources from York University. Her career has taken her from hospitality manager, bookkeeper, and to the right hand, and to be the right hand to the president and CFO of an innovation and technology company in the field of cavitation. In 2020, Wendy changed careers like many others who lost their jobs due to COVID restrictions and mandates. When the Canadian and US border closed, she had to make some tough choices in her livelihood, and she decided to pursue a career in life insurance. She currently serves as regional producer at the management level with a large financial services firm. Always looking for positive side of politics, Wendy is focused on finding solutions to problems the government are creating for Canadians. Wendy is proud to say she is a pro-life supporter and works tirelessly to defend traditional family values. So is it fair to say then that you would describe yourself as a social conservative and when you have traditional values? What are some of the, like, you're a pro-life supporter. What are some of the other traditional family values that you would push to support?
Well, when you take a look at traditional family values, I mean, you're looking at the fact that, we are two genders, two sexes. That's it, man and woman, male or female. And so we need to stand up for women's rights. I mean, for hundreds of years, women have fought for, our freedoms, our rights, our liberties, and we fight for our children and we protect them. We protect our families. So I'm the one that's going to stand up there, and I'm not afraid to speak my truth and speak the truth that there is just two genders. So in the little town of Norwich Township, if you just Google us, you'll see that we've had many issues when it comes to the pride flag and everything. So I spoke at those meetings that there's 3 flags that only need to be flown in our township, and those are government flags because they're neutral. We have the Canadian flag that unites all of us across Canada. We have the Ontario flag, which unites all Ontarians together as one. And then we have our township flag, which of course unites all of our township as one, as a community. And we need to make sure that, we're not, bending down to all of these ideologies that are coming out, because where will our children be, 20 years from now? What does our future look like for that? So we have to speak up regardless of what kind of hate comes our way. Because if we love one another, that's all that there is. We have very simple views on Canada. Canada is one of the best countries in this world to live in, and I'm going to fight for that. I lost my mom last November 25th, and just before she passed, her dying words were, make sure you keep fighting. God has your back. And, we do need to make sure that we have our faith and we have that liberty here and that freedom here in Canada that, you can choose your religion and your faith and it's all accepted. So we just have to make sure we're respecting everybody, but protecting our children is one of our most important things that we need to do. I have a gender confused great nephew, and so we're dealing with that. And, as he's getting older, thank God he didn't get, too sucked into everything, but, we're being able to heal some of his issues that he needs to talk about. And we could actually go to jail, talking about gender, with him, because we're not supposed to tell him that he's a boy. And that's not right, because I have 2 granddaughters, 2 beautiful little granddaughters, 5, and the oldest will be 8 next month. And it's pretty bad when you have to make sure you tell them that they're girls, and they're really smart girls, and they come back and they just start laughing and saying, well, they're trying to say I can be something else than what I am, Oma. And so it's just telling them and getting them aware, but we shouldn't be doing this. And my daughter's very proactive at the school as well. She's taken them out of any type of sex education to make sure that those books are not ever being shown to them because they're disgusting. And even, as a woman of 58 years old, I knew they were out there. And then when Max showed them, I didn't realize how graphic they were. And I was really taken back, and I'm going, this is wrong. So we need to fight, and we need to stand up to them, and they can't bully us.
Yeah, and that stuff's becoming a lot more prevalent and pushed in schools. I mean, it's a social contagion, and what they're doing in schools is wrong. I agree with you on all that, and I'm really sorry to hear about your mom too. You have my condolences there and prayers.
Oh, well, thank you. You know what? She's fighting with me from from the Lord. So that's like, I've got her on my back. So, but it was that alone also gave another experience with her and Maid, right? And mom was unvaccinated, and even one of the nurses in the hospital, she said it very confidently to me in confidentiality, and she said, get your mom out of here as soon as you can. And she was only in there for 4.5 days, but she said the reason she survived her 2 massive heart attacks was because she was unvaccinated.
Well, that's probably a big part of the reason why. Let's get on to Tyler there. And
Hello.
Yes.
Hi, Tyler, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about yourself. I know that you ran in Brandon, Surrey in 2021, or maybe Souris out west.
Yeah, sure.
Souris, sorry. It's the Quebecer in me that always francophizes everything.
That's quite all right.
So you're a young man, you've gotten involved in politics at a young age, and I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about, where you've lived. I understand that you've lived both in an urban environment and a rural environment, which gives a person special insight, and also some of the issues that you're most passionate about.
Well, I appreciate the question, and it's a pleasure to be here with everybody. So to answer that, I guess I'll start with how I kind of grew up. I grew up in Edmonton, Alberta. I was raised there from the time of about, I believe, 3 years old, if I recall correctly, till the time I was about 16, about 16 and a half or so. And that's when, the Alberta economy, it crashed, and unfortunately, it forced my family out of the province. So in that way, my dad, he's a journeyman certified welder of, I think, well over 25 years. He's an absolute magician when it comes to that stuff. But essentially, it forced us out to Portage la Prairie. We kind of just went out. We went out eastward, and we wound up in Portage la Prairie, Manitoba, where I lived for, I believe, about 4 years or so. And then I've been living for about the past 2.5 years or so now in Brandon, Manitoba. So it was interesting because when I first started getting into politics, that would have been about probably about the time when down in the States, we had Donald Trump running for the 2016 presidential election, and that was making big waves. And there was all this controversy going on. And essentially, I was not the most informed about politics, both in Canada, much less around the world. So it started to pique my interest, started to pique my curiosity, and the more I kind of looked into it, I started listening to speakers both on the left and the right, and trying to get my sort of sense of where I fit into the whole thing. And as I was doing so, I was noticing a very disturbing trend as kind of years had gone by, that it seemed like the left was becoming increasingly further and further and further left, to the point of radicalization. And that was very deeply disturbing to me. It was something that, someone who grew up in a Christian household, someone who grew up with those family values that Wendy was talking about, it was something that was deeply disturbing to me. And it was even more disturbing that our government was sort of, our government in Canada was sort of just kind of following along with this whole thing, or if not leading the charge at points. So it was something that really started to make me kind of question what the heck is going on in our government. And then when I started to see in more recent years, I started to see a lot of corruption on both sides of the aisle, where it seemed like everybody is sort of saying one thing and doing another. And we can't really trust, we're at a point where in the mainstream parties, we can't really trust what our politicians are saying anymore. We can't, trust them to answer a straight question with a straight answer, Trudeau especially. We can't really, trust them to follow up on commitments that they make. It's very hard to get anything done with this amount of corruption in our government, and how far things have been moving towards this radical idealizations, or whatever you'd like to call them. But yeah, it just really started disturbing me. So then I ended up 2 years ago, during the spring of 2021, I ended up sort of talking to my mom, who was the president of the Portage Lisgar board at the time, unbeknownst to me. She had been doing that for a while. But she had told me, she said, if you're getting tired of all the big political parties, she said, why don't you take a look at the PPC? Have you ever heard of the PPC? And I said, no, I haven't. So I started looking into them. I started looking into Max and started watching some of the videos that have been posted on YouTube and other social media platforms about Max, and just sort of getting a feel for Max himself and the party. And I said to myself, you know what, this is a guy who, he reminds me in a lot of ways sort of like Trump, in a where he's a straight shooter, maybe not so much of the baggage, but he's a very straight shooter. He says what he means, and he's not afraid to have the hard discussions that we need to have. And that really inspired me. So I was like, you know what, hey, if I can get involved somehow, let's do it. And then, of course, my mom being the president of the Portage Lisgar board at the time, she informed me that Brandon Souris was in need of a candidate. That's where I've been living for the past 2.5 years or so. So I was like, okay, you know what? Hey, if they need a candidate, I'll throw my hat in the ring. And, I kind of figured that I would get involved into politics at some point in my life. I never figured it would be this soon, because I have, for the past number of years been fairly politically inclined, but
Yeah.
I didn't think it would be this soon that I'd get involved, but it's been one heck of a learning experience, and it's been a very amazing time, just sort of getting to connect with so many like-minded people, and sharing those ideas.
Excellent. And thank you for stepping up to the plate there. It's great that you and the other candidates have done that. And it's great to meet all of you. Thanks for coming on. We'll talk more. But I just want to say the election is June 19th. So if you're in any of those ridings, anybody listening is in any of those ridings, get out and vote. So, and you mentioned the corrupt parties, but there's also the corrupt media who just doesn't hold them accountable. I just want to throw that out there too, because that is also a big problem that
Of
we have
course.
in Canada.
Defund the CBC.
Defund the CBC, absolutely. So Max, the question for you, this is very close. The riding you're running in is very close to where you were arrested during the government-imposed coronavirus lockdowns. Can you describe what happened in that situation, and do you think it's going to help your current campaign?
I believe so. I believe that it will help our campaign, because people in this riding, didn't like the COVID restrictions, like myself. And yes, I've been arrested and handcuffed and put in jail for 12 hours just in this riding in Portage Lisgar, and for a non-crime. And actually, um, it was a political repression, because at that time, 2 years ago, the premier of the province said, before me arriving in Manitoba, he said that, if I'm coming here, my pockets will be empty. That was his expression. And actually, he was right, because I didn't win my case. 2 weeks ago, I had to pay $2,000 of a fines. And I said to the judge, I paid for that. I was in jail. And usually it's like a speeding tickets. You don't go to jail for that. But I was 12 hours in jail. But the judge said, no, you have to pay $2,000. And I did it. But that being said, the premier didn't want me in the province. And I had a big rally in Winnipeg the day after that. I wasn't able to be there. I was in jail. But people in this riding know that. And I believe that, the fact that what they did to us, the federal government and provincial government did to us unvaccinated people during the COVID hysteria, people here still remember that. And I believe that they know that I'm a real freedom fighter. And, I'm not scared. I will always fight for what I believe, and paying the price for that, like, being in jail. So they understand, I believe, because of that, I'm not looking at the trend and saying what they want to hear. I'm speaking about conviction, and that's the way I'm doing politics. And I believe in this riding, you have a lot of people that are strong family values, and they're religious people. They know, they want to trust the politician, and I believe that I can be that man. I can be their man to represent their voice in Ottawa. So I answering your question, I believe that it's a plus for me. It's showing them that, you know, I will always fight for what I believe, and I'll do the same thing for them.
Max, I know that friends of mine at different freedom protests, well before the Freedom Convoy, saw you out there in Montreal doing your best to fight for Canadians. And it's really worth highlighting and noting that you didn't just jump onto the Freedom Convoy and leverage it to win a leadership. You were out there for years, trying to convince people and fighting for persecuted Canadians during the most outrageous infringements on our rights in Canadian history. And I really hope that the people of Portage Lisgar recognize that and appreciate that. I wanted to, you had mentioned that the constituents there are quite religious. And I know that we've had you on in the past to talk about this, but for people who may not have heard you talk about this already, I wanted to talk a little bit about the radical gender ideology, because I believe that it's not just in cities, it's really taking over in school boards across the country. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that agenda. We know, you know, that it's to break down the family, to drive wedges between children and parents, siblings, depopulation. You know, it's a corporatist big pharma scheme, really. And as Sweden and Finland and the United Kingdom move away from the Dutch protocol, Canada is doubling down on it. And we know that the Conservatives voted unanimously for Bill C4. So maybe you could elaborate a little bit on this for the listeners.
Absolutely, yes. This is an evil agenda, and we must say that agenda contradicts basic biological realities, and it's harmful for women and children. And you know, you when when they are promoting the radical gender ideology, what they're doing is just to it's an ideology that calls into question your core biological identity, and they try to confuse children. You know, it creates confusion where there was clarity. You know, and they try to confuse children, telling them that you may be born in a wrong body, and that's not such thing as being born in a wrong body. And so it started with the drag queen story hour in schools and libraries, and they try to say, "Oh, it's just for fun," but no, it's a way to impose an ideology, and it is very successful for them. There's more and more young people that are questioning their core identity, and there's no such thing as transitioning. You cannot, you know, a girl cannot be a boy and a boy cannot be a girl, and they must accept their body. But the worst of that is, as you know, the Conservative Party of Canada, the Liberal and the NDP, and every member of Parliament voted for that bill, the Bill C4. That bill, you know, supports the transition, the sterilization, the mutilization of children. And, you know, if you want to speak to your child that may be gender confused, to accept his or her body, you can go to jail up to 5 years. That's part of the Bill C4. So you cannot, as a parent or, you know, doctors, to try to have a discussion with your child, with the kid, about accepting their own identity. It's illegal because of the Bill C4. So, and I understand that more and more people understand that, you know, it's not our society, and we cannot promote that ideology. And you're right by saying, you know, a lot of countries decided to not go there, and some states in the U.S. like Texas and Florida, Norway, Sweden, Finland, and yeah. So there's more and more Western countries that are saying, enough is enough with that ideology. And it's the same thing with the pronouns, the bill C-16, the Jordan Peterson bill, if I can call that bill like that. If you have a trans person and she wants to be called by another pronoun, it's a compelled speech. And Jordan Peterson, long time ago, said it's the beginning of a kind of a toxic revolution in our country. And that was the beginning. Now you have the C4, that bill that is promoting the transition of kids. And you have big corporations that are, woke, and they won't say, ladies and gentlemen. And so it's everywhere. It's in the news. The journalists are woke and promoting that gender radical ideology. It's in the big corporation, in school board. Actually, I was at a meeting of a school board last week, and we didn't win because all the woke and the trans were there and saying, you cannot ban a book, but that book was against the criminal code, section 163, if my memory is good about that. But it was pornography, and in that book, the book called "Let's Talk About It." Let's talk about it, and it's for kids, and it's a sexualization of kids, and you have pornographic images in that book, and they wanted that book to be available for kids, but it's against the criminal code, and we didn't win that battle, but I believe that we will win the war because the common sense will always prevail. It can take time, but I believe that, like COVID-19, it took us 2 years to change the public opinion. And I want to thank everybody, the freedom fighters, everybody that, did these rallies in small towns and big cities in the beginning of COVID-19. And it's because of you. It's because of a tiny minority of freedom fighters that we were able to have that freedom convoy 2 years later. So, and we must do the same thing with that radical gender ideology. We must be out there and speak about the truth. It can be tough because it's very popular with the mainstream media and traditional politicians. But we must have the courage of our conviction, and that's what I'm doing during this campaign, promoting common sense.
So you talked about the Freedom Convoy there a bit, and going back to that, to a point on that, you had a constitutional challenge with Brian Peckford toward in court at some point. Is that still ongoing, or have there been any updates on that?
Yes, it is ongoing. Actually, we sued the federal government because of the vaccine passport. We were not able to travel freely in our country by plane, and we believe that it was against our constitutional rights. And so we didn't win in the federal court. So we decided to appeal that decision, and we are waiting for a date. We must be able to be before the court before the end of this year. And I hope that we will win that appeal. If we don't win, I can tell you that we'll go up to the Supreme Court of Canada, because we strongly believe that we have a constitutional right to be able to travel freely across the country. And we know that it was only a discrimination and segregation, because we know now that the vaccine was not safe and effective, and everybody was able to catch COVID-19 and spread it. So why imposing a vaccine passport for unvaccinated Canadians? And so I hope that we'll win that appeal, but if not, I can tell you we'll go up to the Supreme Court of Canada.
That's awesome, Max. Thank you for fighting the good fight. Brett, what do you think about bringing some friends on to ask some questions? Okay, Brett is
Oh, sorry, I was
Must be
muted.
busy doing something. That's okay. Is it okay if I bring Renee on to ask a question?
I was just going to say, yeah, Renee, go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. Wonderful space. Great to see all the candidates here. Max, good to see you, and good to see you and continue to inspire us. I'm the PPC candidate, Markham Stovall, and my question is to Max, actually, and Wendy. Apart from obviously donating to your cause and giving you the financial means to do what you want to do, how can we help you? I strongly believe Max has an excellent chance of winning in Portage Lisgar, and we want to make sure that his strong voice will make it to the House. How can we do that best, Max? Let us know. Will it help if we? I've been thinking about actually making the trek to Portage Lisgar. That's how my mind is in this whole thing. I'm not sure if that's helpful. I've been talking to Daniel Tari as well. Maybe there's other ways that we can do this, but let us know how we can best help you. We want to carry you into the House, so let's see how we can do this. But please continue to let us know how to do that best.
Thanks, Ronnie. I really appreciate that. And, if you can help me and all our candidates for that by-election, for me, you can go on my website, votemaxbernier.ca. Maybe Wendy and Taylor and our candidates, you can give your website where they can donate and help. The money will be useful for me and for these other candidates. We need money to promote our ideas on social media, to buy ad on radio station, and also to buy ad on a local newspaper. We need our voice to be out there in our respective riding, and so in that by-election. You can donate to the riding, and you can donate also to the national party. But the most important is to be in touch with your candidate in your riding and try to help him and her or her. But we have a strong team here on the ground. It's going well. Step by step, we are out there. But I just want to let you know that the Conservatives are doing everything for us not to be elected. They are lying to people here in the riding. They're corrupt, but it's the same thing for everybody. So we need to be out there, and you can help us also by promoting on social media what the candidates are doing, retweet and post what we are doing, and we want to reach more and more people with our ideas and our platform, so that can help also. But thank you, and I'm doing my best. I'm in the riding right now, and this afternoon I'll be busy to meet people here in the riding, and it's the same thing for our other candidates. We will win that. I believe, and I hope it will be that election. We'll see what will happen. But yes, I strongly believe that people in this riding understand that they have an opportunity to make history, do like what they did in 1989 when they elected the first Reform Party candidate, Deborah Gray, and after in a by-election, and after that, at the general election, they were able, the Reform Party, to have 51 candidates elected. So that was the beginning of a common sense revolution. And we can do the same thing here by electing me and our candidates in this by-election. So thanks, René.
Good. So, yeah, Wendy, you can go ahead, but I just want to point out
Yeah.
that before we go, we'll give everybody a chance to promote any events or anything they have coming up. Did you want to speak to that then, Wendy?
Yeah, I certainly did. Well, we need donations are always fantastic, but we also need boots on the ground. We've got a very large riding, probably like the same as Max's riding. We go, east, west, north, south, you name it, we've got it. And we're actually, Oxford is really a hot riding right now because, Pierre Poilievre has been there a couple times. We just had Justin Trudeau pop in very quietly, but we got some protesters out there really quickly that as we could. And Jagmeet Singh also popped in the very next day. He was told he was coming, but there was no location, but people did find him. So we seem to this seems to be a really hot area, that's for sure, for leaders to come in. And we definitely know in Oxford that Max is staying where he is in Manitoba to make sure that he can win his riding. So the more boots on the ground that we can get to door knock is more important as well, because people still don't know about the PPC. I mean, I'm making a big noise in Oxford, and we have our meet and greet event on June the 2nd in Mount Elgin at 7 p.m. So if you can pass the word around for that as well. And, as I said before, I'm, in the Dominican Republic, but I'm canvassing like you wouldn't believe on social media. But I'm here to find solutions as well. I'm actually doing and watching some biofuel innovation that's going on that my former employer I'd made a contract with to come down and help him with that. So there's going to be a lot of information that's going to come from that, but as I'm under an NDA, can't explain too much about it. But these are carbon-free fuels that our farmers can use, and we can get away from the carbon tax and things like that. So we're thinking outside the box, at least I am. I'm looking for solutions and alternative powers by Canadian innovators. So, we're hoping to have another event for agriculture on June the 8th. We're just waiting to make sure we've got that that spot opened at our community center, and then we'll be doing an agriculture event, and we'll also be doing a gender ideology event later in the evening. So we're stirring the pot here in Oxford, and I'm just loving it, and I'm so happy that we have such a great leader and great candidates that are out there, that we're standing strong, we're supporting each other. We're gonna blow this up, and we're gonna get some MPs into Ottawa in these by-elections, that's for sure.
Excellent. So, yeah, we'll go to some other questions here. Chris, did you have a question you wanted to ask?
Can you guys hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Perfect. Thanks for letting me speak. Yeah, I just wanted to thank both you and Natasha for hosting and for the guests for attending. I just have a quick comment and a question. I wanted to thank all the PPC and for all of your efforts in holding the establishment's feet to the fire and standing on principle. You've inspired many, including myself, and I encourage every one of you to keep doing what you're doing. My question is for Mr. Bernier. Given the level of awareness that PPC and their members have, what is your message towards encouraging wellness on this journey while carrying so much weight? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I can tell you that when we decided to create the People's Party in 2018, we knew at that time that it would be a long run, and we're doing a peaceful revolution, doing politics differently. And everybody thought that after the election in 2019, when I'm saying everybody, the journalists, national media, leftist journalists, the establishment politician with 1.6% of the vote, they were saying that's the end of the PPC. Bernier is dead. And we did very well at the last election. Only 2 years after that, we were able to have 5%. But now I'm campaigning here, and I understand that people know that our message is very powerful, and they know that we won't do any compromise. And the fact that we are doing politics differently with the same ideas, what I'm saying in that by-election, I said that in 2019 and 2021, we won't change the platform. So it's encouraging to see that more and more people are coming on board. The only challenge that we have is with the mainstream media, the national mainstream media, because they know that if they give us a fair visibility, if they cover us, we will grow faster. But that's why this by-election, it's important to spread the message, and I'll do it after the election until the next general one. So I want to thank everybody, but our time will come. It will come. Like I'm always saying, we will win. The only challenge, and I don't know when, but we will win, and we are here for the long run. But maybe it may be shorter, and maybe, and we can have some candidates elected in that by-election. So I'm saying to people, what is the goal? To have the best ideas. If you keep your ideas and for yourself, be out there, be part of the change, be the change, and speak to your friends and to your family about the PPC, because still a lot of people don't know that we exist. So help us to promote our Canadian values, family values, common sense, less government, more autonomy, individual freedom, personal responsibility, respect, and fairness. And we will change that country. We will regain our country. So thanks for asking. And I'm there, and I can tell you that at the next general election, we will have a full slate of candidates in 2025, and everybody.
Well, I think that, Max, to your point, another really valuable tool is a great platform, which the PPC has. And it's wonderful to be able to send it to people with confidence. As we know, the CPC doesn't have a current platform. So, what their platform is I guess what's being tweeted about at the moment in their voting record, which is certainly not conservative. So yeah, I would encourage people to send along the PPC platform. It's really fantastic, and it makes for a great read for people. Renee, I see you have your hand up. However, I was wondering if we could first bring on Gov, because Gov is a money guy. He cares about finances and central banking, and really the ways that Canadians are oppressed by our own financial system are dear to his heart. So Gov, if you want to go ahead and ask a question, I cede the floor to you.
Yeah, so like a lot of people, we try to fight on the political side, get out there and fight back and shrink government. But like one of the biggest things that I think is a systemic problem, and I know you're aware. I've read your comments, I've seen you comment is on the Bank of Canada, and I think that the Bank of Canada itself and what it has done over the last few decades, and it's just getting worse, is actually more dangerous to our freedoms or to our liberties, to our way of life than the government can do. So one thing that I would like to see as a party is to address the Bank of Canada, to audit the Bank of Canada, to bring awareness of Canadians to what they're doing and how they operate and how the system is designed for economic slavery. And I think that is a very important thing that I don't really see any political party talking about, except for you talk about it a little bit. And we look like we've given away all our gold is gone, and we have all this debt, and we're a country that is rich in resources, and there should be no reason why we're trillions of dollars in debt. So like that is one thing that I would like to see, and I would like to have your views and your opinions on that.
Yes, you have a point there. Actually, because of the Bank of Canada, we had that inflation, and in our platform, we want to tell the Bank of Canada to stop to, print money out of thin air, and because they're creating inflation, and they have an inflation target of 2% every year. But for the last 10 years, 2% inflation every year, we end up with 25% inflation. And now we have inflation about 5% here in Canada this year. And I believe that it will be the same kind of inflation every year for the next 5 to 8 years, because it's the way that inflation is a tax, and it's the way that we are paying for these huge deficit and that debt that Trudeau and Poilievre created, because Poilievre voted for all the COVID-19 programs. And but also I know that in the US, Ron Paul, when he was running for the leadership of the Republican Party, he was very popular by saying we must audit the Fed. And I believe that we must do the same thing also in Canada. We have a fiat monetary system, like you said. Our dollar is not based on gold, we don't have a gold standard. And yes, the Bank of Canada is, I believe so, the only Western banks that doesn't have any gold in reserve. So that would be a big challenge if we have a new monetary system. Actually, yes, it's sad that the Conservatives, the Liberals, the NDP, they don't want to speak about the the monetary policy and the Bank of Canada, but we are, because the Bank of Canada, with printing that money out of thin air, created inflation. Our standard of living is going down. Our purchasing power is going down. And we must stop that. And the way also the government must act is balancing the budget. If you balance the budget, the Bank of Canada won't be able to print money out of thin air like they did during COVID-19. So let's balance the budget. We can do that in 1 year, and let's have a new contract with the Bank of Canada. I agree with you 100%. We are in trouble right now economically because of the central bankers and these authoritarian bankers who are imposing, inflation rate, and it must be done by the free market, but it is not the case. So we have a lot to do with the Bank of Canada, and it's part of our platform. And we need to explain that to Canadians, that we have that inflation because of bad monetary policy.
Bad monetary policy. And also we kind of see coming down the line central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. What are your thoughts on that, Max? And is it something that we should be doing moving forward? And then we'll get to a couple more questions. Hopefully you can stick around with us just for a few more minutes. Maybe we can get to 2 more after this or so.
Yes. The CBDC, I just want to let you know that, it is a project. The federal government, not at the last budget, but the budget before that, put aside $17 million for 3 years for the Bank of Canada and the Finance Department to ask them to draft a draft legislation on a central bank digital currency. So the federal government, with the Bank of Canada and the Finance Department, is looking at that. And next year, you will have a draft legislation ready. So why we don't want, and we are against a central bank digital currency, the most important is privacy, your privacy. What is a central bank digital currency? I was a banker before, when I was working in the private sector for 19 years before being in politics. So a central bank digital currency, it's the central bankers will have all the information about you. Today maybe, or this afternoon, you can go and buy something at a restaurant or anywhere, and you can pay with your debit card or your credit card. And tonight you'll be at your home, and you'll go on your bank account, and you look at your statements in your bank account, and you'll see all the transactions that you did during the day or the last month. Everything is there on your debit card, on your credit card, in your account. So that information, the data in that information, is private between you and your banker. Your banker cannot give that information to anybody, because they cannot say to give that information. Oh, that person is going every Sunday in Walmart. No, it's private information. Everything that you're doing, you have access to that. Your banker have access to that, and that's it. A central bank digital currency, instead of having an account to your private bank like Royal Bank or National Bank, you will have an account with the central bank. And so that information will be between you and the central banker. And the central banker will know everything about you, all your transactions. And if the central banker, a bureaucrat, knows that, politicians will know it, and they will be able to use that and to try to change your behavior. Maybe, if they believe that there's a climate emergency, and you spend a lot of money on gas the last month, maybe you won't be able to pay with your debit or credit card at the gas station next month, because the politician will say, oh no, that person is traveling too much, and there's too much pollution, so you won't have the right to buy gas for a month. That can happen because they will have the information. So that's why we must fight that, and you can count on the PPC to fight that and protect our privacy.
Great. There's a couple hands up here, so let's get to some other questions. Wabbit, what do you want? If you want to go ahead and ask your question, just kind of try to keep it short, please.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. My question again is for Max.
Max, you'd mentioned about getting the word out, and I know in the previous election, there was a lot of difficulty. Like there was a lot of people that just hadn't even heard of PPC. Them not allowing you into the into the debates and that kind of thing further added to that. So my question is, to get around that, do you not think that the backing a provincial party or getting involved in the provincial elections would help to get the PPC's name and message out there as well, either backing or coming up with a PPC party? Now, I know Ontario had the PPO, and we're moving into, right now we have the Alberta elections. Next year we have the Saskatchewan elections. Wouldn't that help to further the PPC message and just get word out there so that people actually knew of its existence and what they want to do for Canada?
The answer to that is no, because it's a big work starting a new political party at the federal level, from coast to coast to coast, and we are very busy to do that. We have a small team to do that. We didn't have a full slate of candidates at the last two elections. 313 at the last one and 321 at the first one. At the next election, we're working on that. We'll have a full slate, but also. We have a platform and a message that is based for federal politics. We know the Constitution, and our platform, it's all about the jurisdiction of the federal government. And we must respect these jurisdictions. So that being said, I understand that some people are trying to build a populist party at the provincial level. I don't have anything against that. That's their privilege if you want to build a new political party. But we won't interfere in provincial politics. We need to. I know that some of our people, for example, in Ontario, they voted for the True Blue, others voted for the People's Party, but there's no link with us and them. They're very independent, and we don't. Also, I must say that we don't control the name. If somebody wants to create a People's Party of Manitoba tomorrow, we don't own the name. We own the name for the country, but not for a province. But we are not promoting that. I believe that the People's Party must be at the federal level only. But being the fact that yes, we have been cancelled by the mainstream media. What can I do for that? But I must say that at the next general election, I will be part of the national debate, and that will help because we will have a coverage from the mainstream media after that. I will be part because they didn't want me in the 2021 election, and they created a new rule saying that for Bernier and the PPC, they need to have 4% of the vote, and we had 5%. So I'll be there at the next national debates, at the next general election. That will give us more visibility, and also the mainstream media will have to speak about us. And I strongly believe that we almost triple our score from 2019 to 2021, and maybe we can double our score in 2025 from 5% to 10%. I don't know, but we're gonna work hard, and we'll have an influence in Canadian politics. I can tell you that.
All right. Ben, the mic is yours. Go ahead, man. Ben, unmute yourself, bottom left. There we go.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, so I just had a question for Max. I know that a lot of people are impressed with, the CPC simply based on their platform for protecting legal firearm owners in Canada. I know the PPC's platform is better. I was just wondering if maybe you could expand a little bit on more about what the PPC would do to protect the rights of legal firearm owners.
Yes, actually, and if people want more details, they can go on our website, peoplespartyofcanada.ca, click on platform, and you'll choose firearms. And what we want to do, repeal everything that Trudeau did. And, and also now the RCMP can decide tomorrow that your gun is illegal, and they will confiscate your gun without any compensation. We must stop that. the distinction between guns must be in the legislation. It must be voted in Parliament, and we must have a legislation that will be simple. And it's not because of a gun looks dangerous that it may be prohibited. So we want also for gun owners to have a lifetime license. That would be important because, and I did it, I will receive my license, I don't know, maybe in a couple of weeks or months. I did the course, I did the PAL, possession acquisition license. I'm waiting for my license right now. And gun owners are law-abiding Canadians, and they are respectful of the law. And if you want to fight criminals, it's not by putting more regulations and restrictions on them. So repeal everything, and people will have the right to actually have handguns. Like now in Canada, it's a prohibition by the Trudeau government. You are not able to buy handguns, and I believe that you must be able to do that for your sport. Shootings or hunting, and it's part of our culture. And I will invite everybody to go and read our platform. It's I believe that it's the best gun platforms for gun owners and also for the protection of Canadians.
Thanks, Max. Appreciate that.
Max, I was wondering if you could stay on. I know you're a busy guy, but if you could stay on for one more question from Dr. V before you go.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. So Dr. V, it's your turn.
Congratulations to you and to Wendy, Tyler, and to Tiny on your candidacy for the upcoming by-elections. And thank you for giving us Canadians something to hope for. My question to you, Max, is about biodigital convergence. That being the end result of what the social credit system would be, and policy horizons is responsible for the biodigital convergence in the Canadian government. My question is, what is your opinion on biodigital convergence?
Yeah, if you want to explain a little bit more, because it's very large and I want to be precise in my answer.
It would be just what your general opinion would be.
Yeah, so look what happened with COVID-19. They pushed on us a vaccine that was not safe and effective, and also, without informed consent, they were pushing that to Canadians and using fear and propaganda to promote the vaccine. So I believe that Canada must be independent from the World Health Organization, and I think that that's a start. And I really appreciated what Danielle Smith did in Alberta when she said, she said a couple of months ago that she doesn't want her civil servant to be part of the World Health Organization. And she said, healthcare is important. Healthcare is a provincial jurisdiction, and we'll decide that here. That must be the same thing for the country. We must be independent from these international organizations that are pushing their agenda. So I'm for our sovereignty, and when you fight for your country and the sovereignty of your country, you cannot do anything wrong. And I believe that these globalists and big pharmas that try to impose their agenda, we must not participate in that. So we have the expert here in Canada, medical expert, and a lot of them were on our side during COVID-19, and they were saying the same thing that I was saying based on their experience. And so let's promote our way to deal with healthcare in Canada without having to follow everything that is coming from outside, because all that is coming from big pharma and the World Health Organization.
Okay, so
thank you, Max.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have one more hand up there. Why don't we get to that? We'll let Renee ask his question, and then we'll give you a chance, Max, to say any closing words. And yeah, and we can stick around afterwards. I think Natasha and I will stick around. Maybe the other candidates want to give some closing statements as well. So Renee, what is your question?
Yeah, it's a burning question, actually. If you look at the analysis of who voted in the 2019 and 2021 election, a growing segment of the Canadian population is tuning out. The amount of non-voters was over 10 million in the previous election, which is almost double of the winning segment of both the Liberal and the Conservative voters. My question to any of the candidates is, how do we as Canadians, and especially concerned Canadians, principled Canadians, reach out to that segment of the population, and how do we engage them? It's great to have 200 people here in this space, and we're definitely a bunch of advanced minds here discussing that debate. But how do we go out and create the support to implement the good measures that we know we need in Canada? And that's for any of the candidates here.
Yeah, let me answer maybe very quickly. And you're right about that. There's a lot of people who decided not to vote at the federal level and sometime at the provincial level, but we are doing politics at the federal level. So, and maybe at least 40% of the population. And if we can have half of them, we'll be at 20%. And so I think it's very important to try to reach them. And I understand why they're not voting. And usually, if you don't vote, it's because you don't believe in politicians. You think that they're saying something a day and the opposite the other day, and you don't want to give them your support. But we have to be out there and telling them we are doing politics differently. We won't change. We don't do any compromise. We are coherent. We won't say something a day or pander to a special interest group. If you like what we are saying, support us. If you don't like, don't vote for us. We won't change. And that's a new way to do politics. But doing politics like that, you don't win the first time, and we didn't win the first time, and we don't do any polling and focus group because it's not important for us. We have a strong vision for this country based on our principles, and we believe that we have the best vision, and the more we speak about that, the more support we will have. So these Canadians who decided not to vote, I understand maybe why, but if they can just look at us, and they're going to see a huge difference between the way us and our candidates and the way we are doing politics. And I believe that it's the best argument for having them. It's just look at our platform, and when you're giving time or giving your vote to a political party, you're voting for a political party because you like what that political party is saying or you like their platform. But for us, it's if you vote for us the first time, you will be able to vote for us the second time at the next election because our platform will always be the same. So we are building on the support that we have. So every election we will grow our support. I believe so. So I understand why some people don't go out and vote, but if you want to change the country, be part of the change and be the change and vote for something different. And we are a real populist national party, and I believe that we can attract them, but also it's a big challenge to reach them. That's the challenge that we have, but that's why I believe that we can grow that party. That's why I believe that we can double our score at the next general election with the support of people who decided not to vote. And at the last general election, I can tell you, I saw a lot of people said, Maxime, I never voted. I will vote for you. I like what you're doing, and you're very different than these establishment politicians. So I believe that we have the right platform for them and for all Canadians, and that's why we will grow as a political party.
And I'd just like to point out to people that also, Sunday afternoon is a busy time, but you can send this spaces recording to anybody who's interested. You can look at Brett's other spaces that Max was on as well. It's a great way for people to hear him organically answering questions.
Okay, so with that, then we had scheduled this for an hour with Max. We've gone 15 minutes over that, so I'm just going to give you, Max, a chance. Is there anything you want to promote? Any closing statements before we let you go there?
Well, I want to thank you, Brett and Natasha, for that. It is very important to be out there using all the tools that we can, social media. That's what I try to do to reach people, and also in the real life, speaking with our friends and your families. A lot of people still don't know that we exist, and that's a nice challenge. But I want to, follow me, follow our candidates, go on their web page, on their Twitter account, promote them, retweet it, repost it. We are a small army of freedom fighters and fighting for our country. So the more we have people who are there on the social media and being active and in the real life, the better it would be for you and the better it would be for our country. So thank you, everybody, and stay strong and free. And I'm going back to the campaign trail, and you can follow all our candidates and you can help them and go on their website and helping them to raise money. And if you have time, if you live in the riding, to give your time and be a volunteer. Thank you again, Brett. Thank you, Natasha, and have a nice Sunday, everybody.
Thank you, Max. Godspeed and God bless.
Okay, let's give the other candidates running in the by-elections a chance for a final comment. So, Tiny, is there anything you want to say here in closing? Why should we vote for you? Why should the people in your riding vote for you? Tiny, if you want to unmute yourself in the bottom left. Okay, well then let's go to Tyler.
Okay. Well, if I'm being posed the same question, I would say because I really don't consider myself to be a politician in the typical sense. I'm a young guy. I'm an everyday average person that was getting sick and tired of what I was seeing going on in my country and the world at large, and getting tired of the corruption I was seeing from the typical politicians. So when I joined the PPC, it was my mission to do exactly what Max has described, to do politics differently and to be a different kind of politician. So yeah, if you are looking for a change in your government, in your communities, if you're looking for a change for a better future for your children, and someone who's actually going to represent your values, someone who's actually going to be young enough to experience and be accountable for the consequences of their choices or non-choices during their time in government, then yeah, I would say vote for myself as the candidate, whether it's in this by-election for Winnipeg South or whether it be in a future general election for Brandon Souris.
Okay, and do you have any events coming up that you want to promote?
Yeah, actually, we do have, and this is a to be determined date as of right now, but we're hoping to get planned a barbecue, hot dog barbecue going down in the Winnipeg South region. That's going to be hosted by Patrick, who is Patrick Allard, I believe, who is the president of the board for Winnipeg South, and I will be in attendance for that. So as soon as there's a finalized date on that, then yeah, I'll make sure to post that on my Twitter. So feel free to give me a follow. Make sure you get those notifications all set up so that way you know when that is going to happen. And then also there's going to be this coming week, this Thursday, I believe June 1st, is going to be another hot dog barbecue where Max and Josh Alexander are going to be in attendance in the Portage Lisgar riding. So I will be in attendance for that as well. So if you'd like to come and meet myself or Max, or if you'd like to meet Josh, he's an awesome guy. I'm really excited to meet him myself. He's going to be in attendance as well. Feel free to come out to either of those events. And of course, feel free to just give me a follow on Twitter, retweet the stuff that I share if you agree with it. And yeah, just really get that message spread out to friends and family and loved ones.
Yeah, okay. And just while I'm thinking about it, everybody here, give Tyler a follow, give Tanya a follow, give Wendy a follow, and give Natasha a follow. All very good accounts. So that being said, Wendy, I will pose the same question to you.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Brett. Well, voting for me just means voting for something different in politics. Just like Max says, we do politics differently. Since 2019, since I became my first candidacy that I won, and then I won again in 2021 to represent the PPC, and now I'm representing again in the by-election, I've never stopped canvassing. From day one until whenever I die, I will always be canvassing for the PPC. And that's different than a lot of other politicians because they just kind of stop. Once the election is over with, you never hear from them again until the next election. So when you're looking at myself as a social conservative, what you're looking at is the very most important thing that we have to do is balance our budget. So when we have our budget balance, that also helps then in inflation and reduce that inflation, which gives a lot of families a lot more money in their pockets. And so, we can talk about many other different topics. We can fight for the rights of our children, fight for the rights of the unborn. All of these are very, very important, and I'm not afraid to talk about them. I'm not afraid to listen to somebody who might disagree with me because you know what? We have to have open communication, and if we're not listening to our constituents and their concerns, the thing of it is we have more in common than what they realize, because they'll start talking to you about something and go, oh, well, I don't believe in this. And I'm going, well, neither do we. So you actually become common ground. So you can't have a political mindset like the normal political people do. Okay, we're there to help Canadians, and I'm going to be there for your voice. I'm not as young as a lot of people out there. Like I said, I'm a grandmother, but you know what? I've got life experience, and so I can look at things from outside a box. Okay, because I'm an out of the box thinker. So when you're taking a look at the problem, what caused the problem? How can you fix the problem? So let's be the solution to the government's problems that they've created and take those problem solving skills away, because a government cannot give you the problem and the solution at the same time, because then you don't really need the government. Right? So they can't create the problem and then they can't give you the same solution, because they shouldn't have given you the problem in the first place if they're giving you a solution. So if another political party is actually out there looking for the solutions to the problems the government has created, we have a lot more value to give. So get out and vote. Make sure you get everyone to know to get out and vote on June 19th for the ridings that are having their by-election, because, this is a democracy and we need to respect the fact that it's a democracy. We're not communist yet, so let's keep our voices going.
Okay, and let's just give another chance to Tiny there. If you can get on. Are you still with us? Remember, you're muted, so in the bottom left. No, I don't think he's with us. Okay, so anyway, I think Natasha and I can stick around and we'll keep going for maybe another half hour or so. Natasha, are there any topics that we didn't cover that we should get to?
Well, one of my favorite topics is UN Agenda 2030, the Sustainable Development Goals. And I wish that I thought to ask Max when we had him. The last time I tried asking him this question, he lost reception and we lost him altogether. But Mark Friesen was able to come in.
Oh, looks like we lost Natasha there. Is there anyone there? Are we still on?
Still here, yeah.
Okay, yes. Okay, well, I'm going to try to see if I can find her back there. She's sent a request. Invite to co-host, send co-host invite. And I think we'll be back up and running. 1 second. Renee, about the UN Agenda 2030, do you have anything to say on that, perhaps, while I try to get this fixed? Oh,
Sure.
there we go.
You know what? As an environmental engineer, geoscientist, I work in that industry, so I work with that every day. Now, I found peace with that to some extent because I'm building transit in Canada, infrastructure projects, so I don't have a big moral problem with it. But the imposition of the World Economic Forum 2030 agenda is in fact in progress, and in a way, that's what we're fighting. Not just environmental ones. and
Um,
it's something to be aware of. I think at this point we're just we have to shine a light on it and be conscious of it. We could even say that the transgender agenda is part of it, right? Um,
The transgender agenda is a big part of it, and we see that even through like companies. When you see Major League Baseball or NHL, and you see they have all these pride LGBT. I mean, I can't say it the same way that Justin Trudeau does, but the alphabet soup. That's all coming because they're in partners with the UN agenda and Agenda 2030, and it's really being pushed not only on local levels, municipal governments, federal governments, but even in sports and through companies as well.
Yeah, so that's important, that because often we're being ridiculed about it. Oh, this is just a conspiracy theory that this is a concerted agenda. It's not, and we see it. See, the SDGs are mostly successful being implemented through financial means. The Vanguard Group and BlackRock, as we all know, own most of the publicly traded companies. Now, I think we can be happy that the CEO of Vanguard recently came out saying that he is going to not just look at SDGs as a performance a key performance indicator, and that they will start to focus on financial performance. But yeah, BlackRock still specifically is focused on that, and through that they can implement this as a from the top down, and that becomes very close to what I would call corporate fascism, right? Like the implementation of ideological measures in financial companies. It's insidious, and we see it everywhere, and a lot of people will not even recognize it. So it's important that we shine a light on it, and through awareness, hopefully we can combat it.
Yes. Gov, I really liked your question to Max. Do you have anything more you want to add on the topic uh, of the central banks in Canada, around the world, and CBDCs?
Well, one thing that came to mind is you know that there is a push to move towards CBDCs, and what Max was saying is instead of going to your TD, your Royal Bank, or what have you, you'd have a bank account from the Bank of Canada, and he's correct in laying that out. But my question is, how are we going to get to that? Because we can't create a new system unless we take out the old system first. So one of the things that I was thinking about, and maybe somebody else would want to opine on this too, is that they have to create a crisis. They did it with COVID to push the vaccine. So they have to create a crisis that will get the people to basically accept this new ideology. So the crisis is going to be, and we're seeing it in the United States. You see your small and your medium-sized banks starting to go under. So perhaps what's going to happen in Canada, in order for the masses to accept this idea of the central banking digital currency, is you have a financial crisis, a financial collapse of there's only like 5 big banks in Canada, so it wouldn't be too hard. And then you have the Bank of Canada step in and nationalize it and say, you know what, this is the problem, and then we have to do this, and then we know what the solution is going to be CBDC. So I think that's what I see is going to be playing out, and I would like to hear other people's opinions, because I think it's an important topic to talk about.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
I'm back, by the way. I
Okay, we got Natasha back.
I wonder, is it a coincidence that when I asked Max that question about UN Agenda 2030, he was bumped off, and then when I asked about it again today, I was bumped off?
I was thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah, it just seems wildly coincidental and bizarre, but anyway.
Maybe they have some keywords they're picking up on us here.
Yeah, be that as it may, I missed the last few minutes, so I'm just going to try to catch up with everybody. And yeah, I don't know who would like to take Gov's question. Did we find Tiny?
No, I don't think we ever got Tiny back. I think he's gone now.
Okay, so perhaps Wendy or Tyler would like to speak a little bit on the topic.
Sure, I'll speak on the topic. So in terms of the central bank digital currency, I find it absolutely, it's it's absolutely terrifying, if I may be frank. It's the whole concept of it screams Orwellian by its very nature. To have a centrally controlled, an elite controlled digital currency that lets them track every single purchase, every single thing that you ever spend your money on. It essentially gives them a look inside your mind. It essentially lets them sort of know what you're thinking. And it's bad enough that the government and these elitists, these globalists, they want to invade our schools. They want to invade our children's lives. They want to invade our finances. They want to invade our homes. They want to invade our very minds. They want control over everything. And that's what these people at the top really, there's a lust for them, because you have to think of it from their perspective. These people at the very top, they have literally so much money that we as the everyday normal people, we would have no idea what to do with it. They have no idea what to do with it. The only thing that can sustain or satisfy that desire for power now is to control just about everything. So to that end, they are now coming up with this, with all these things. They're essentially pushing, because if you look at the people that are heavy investors into these central banks, the people that own them, they rub shoulders with. Sometimes they themselves even own, or they are part of these political movements as well. They're essentially pushing this on us, and so it's incredibly Orwellian. I like to think of it because I actually did a paper in this back in school with George Orwell's 1984, 1984 rather, and so it's incredibly Orwellian. So the idea that they want to sort of invade our minds by looking through every bit of our personal information down to what we spend our money on, use our power to vote with our wallets for, that is incredibly scary. I think the only way to really combat it is for people to more openly adopt decentralized, digital currencies, because I don't believe digital currencies are going anywhere. I think they're becoming more and more the norm. I think they're going to remain the norm for a long time to come, because they are a very great way to conduct, to keep your privacy and to conduct transactions on a safe level. And the best part about it is they don't have, they're a lot less prone to inflation in the long term, because of the max cap on how many can be in circulation. So, given all those factors, I think we need to really more openly accept decentralized digital currencies and use our dollars, use our financial power to fight back against that centralized control.
So touch base on a couple of things.
Okay,
We're
Sarah,
not
you're not
we're not
coming.
able to hear you. I wonder if everybody who has asked a question and has finished could drop down, and then Brett can bring other speakers up. And also, Brett, I did see Tiny. I tried to accept his request, so I don't know if you found him in the space or not. He has
No,
a very
I'm not seeing
interesting
any
background.
requests.
Okay, it's a shame. He sent a request, I accepted it, but obviously my tech is on the fritz since I brought up UN Agenda 2030. So
Okay, so I'm not seeing any requests here either. So
I'm seeing requests, like there's one from James. I accepted it, but he's not coming up as a speaker. So unfortunately, it seems like things are a little bit frozen. However, it's open for the candidates. If you have anything specific that you'd like to talk about, feel free. Now is the time.
Natasha, it's Wendy. I just wanted to give kudos to Tyler for his explanation on digital currency. It's really important that people understand how that works and how it's not safe. And the interesting thing is when I had a conversation about that down here in the DR with a few people about how the top percentage of the wealthy try to control us. And I said, once you have all the money, you can't get anything more. Like there's nothing more wealthy that you can have. So then you go for control and you go for power. And we don't need people knowing what we're doing with our money. We work hard for that money. We pay our taxes for that money. So we don't need government scrutinizing what we're doing with that. We've seen that happen in the trucker convoy when they froze bank accounts and how quickly they did that. Can you imagine with digital currency, as someone said, you go over your CO2 credits that they're going to give you in the future. They're trying to put through with that 15-minute cities, and then boom, you can't get home because you can't use your debit card anymore and you don't have cash. Well, we use a commerce in a lot of different ways. I'm in a rural community where dollars are very important because we work with Mennonites, and they don't have a debit machine when it comes to their farm for us to go and buy our fruits and vegetables during the seasons and things like that. So it's really important that people are aware of how bad digital can be and why we're fighting against it. Because if you don't understand, then people just will go with the flow. So I was really happy that you did bring that up. And, I thank Tyler for doing his explanation on that, because that was fantastic. Thank you, Tyler.
Okay, so I see we were able to get James up there, but first I want to get to Gov and get his reply to that, and then we'll get to you, James.
Yeah, like in terms of your CBDCs and whatnot, you said like moving towards a more of a decentralized platform. Your Bitcoins, your Ethereums, and there's a plethora of them you can choose from. But do you think that this idea, like we live in a psyops world, that they have been using the idea of your Bitcoins and your altcoins to normalize and to allow people to get more comfortable with the idea of a digital currency, and then maybe something happens and a lockdowns happen, and then people start to move into you can take this to CBDC as a solution. So like we know how they work, and we know how that they use psyops against us, and like you have to understand, like this push to CBDC, like it's been happening for a long time. Like our dollar as it is today, 97% of it exists in the digital realm. Like there's only 3% that's in actual cash. So most of it is digital. And then they normalized us with the idea of the credit cards and the debit cards and then your tap. So like this has been happening for a while. And then you can all go all the way back to the early 70s when I think that the system really took off. And I think that's when we lost our monetary base altogether, is when they ended the Bretton Woods system, because before it was 40% backed gold, and 1913 when the Federal Reserve came into existence. But like when they ended the Bretton Woods system and it became totally fiat, and that's when we really have seen like nations across the world skyrocket in debt. Happened here in Canada, the exact same thing. So I think that this thing it was a long game for them. It has been going on for a long time, and it was so insidious that like many people didn't really realize it, and then we're at the end result right now. So like I think that people really have to fight back, because the one thing that does work in our benefit is, because it does take such a long time, is time. So we do have time on our hands, but I think that we really need to be aware of what their plan is.
Yeah, it's also worth pointing out, I live in Quebec, and all Quebecers know that power outages are a regular part of life here. We had the ice storm in the 90s. Some people didn't have electricity for months. We had a recent ice storm a few months ago. People didn't have electricity. So not only did they lose their phones and their heat, we also have all sorts of crazy legislation where people can't have wood burning stoves anymore. So what happens when the power grid goes down, which certainly we see happening all over the place, and there are natural disasters, and we can't use any money? I mean, these are very serious questions with serious implications in a country where it's winter, 6 or more months of the year. Brett, I'm going to hand over to you, hosting. I don't know if you want to bring James in if he has any questions for the candidates. I have to leave absolutely by 2:45. So if ever I have to duck out, I appreciate everybody's time today, and I appreciate everybody showing up and spread around the message. You can send the link to your friends who weren't able to meet up today.
Yep. I have to get going soon here too, so we will get to James there. Go ahead and ask your question if you whatever you want to say, or if you have a question for one of the candidates that are still with us here, Wendy or Tyler. Go ahead. The mic is yours.
Yeah. I just have a quick comment. I joined late, so Max may have mentioned this early on. I'm just curious about the CCP infiltration into our government, their role in selecting the Liberal candidate Hang Dong as a nominee and then getting him elected to Parliament, and this CCP contribution to the Trudeau Foundation, David Johnson's recent recommendation against a full public inquiry. I think it's a pretty serious issue for Canadians, and I didn't hear anything about it, so I just wonder, what your thoughts are on that. And I just wanted to throw that towards any of the candidates that want to comment on it. Did Max comment on it? I'm just curious.
It's not something we had commented on already, and is a very important and serious issue. Wendy or Tyler, do you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. I'll take a quick comment on that. I do also want to circle back just a little bit to the discussion on the central bank issue and the sort of the fears around how I remember one person had asked a moment ago how if whether or not this is going to be sort of like a psyop, the whole central bank digital currency, and how sort of decentralized currencies might play into that. So to first answer the question about the public inquiry, it's yet again another show of an abuse of power. Trudeau, we all know at this point, anybody who's been paying any slightest bit of attention knows that Trudeau will essentially pull whatever little strings he can or he feels he needs to in order to not end up being held publicly accountable for his actions. So you scream the word public inquiry at him, and the first word out of your mouth, he's already turned off his ears. So that being said, it's something that does need to be looked into. I believe, if the PPC, were the PPC to gain a minority or even a majority government, I believe we would certainly do everything in our power to call public inquiries like that into the light, and let Canadians know, give Canadians transparency into what is actually going on in their government, and make sure that whether it's ourselves as candidates or members of Parliament, whether it's the opposition, whoever it is, we need to make sure that all of our leaders are being held publicly accountable. So that's something I definitely believe in. And then to kind of circle back just a little bit to
Tyler, sorry, I just wanted to jump in for a second and note that the CPC are the official opposition, and their leader can't say the words China or Chinese, which makes it difficult to talk about Chinese interference in Canadian elections dating back to the Mulroney years, which means that the CPC has also been compromised, is my understanding. So there needs to be an inquiry into it. And the CPC, there's nothing stopping them. They've got a great big war chest. They could run their own inquiry. They don't need to wait for some kind of permission from corrupt Trudeau appointees. They can do it themselves. That's, they're there to serve us, right?
They are, and that's the thing. If we want to gain a fair and open media, if we want to actually have the media stop being so one-sided or just playing the fiddle of whoever's in power, then we need to essentially cut all government funding from all media organizations. We need to go to a time where the media had to actually work in order to get its paychecks, in order to gain people's attention. The media actually had to do real investigative journalistic reporting and actually produce something of value for the population. It's very clear by the numbers at this point that the media has failed to do that. The CBC gains so little. They take in so much money from the government, but they produce so little results, and so few Canadians are paying attention to the CBC anymore. It's laughable. So if we want to return to a free, fair, and open media, then we need to take government involvement completely out of it and have these media companies run themselves like any other company. You either sink or you swim.
I just have to come in to say goodbye to everybody. It would be great to hear from Tiny again. He has a fascinating biography. He's from Cameroon. He's traveled to Russia, to France, to Europe. He's lived in Canada for 15 years, and he has done a doctorate and a very well educated, multilingual man. Unfortunately, we lost him during the spaces. So we'll put up some more information about that after. But I wanted to thank everybody. I wanted to thank Wendy, Tyler, and Max, and of course, Brett. You're just the best co-host ever, and all of the speakers who came up. And I'm sorry I have to cut out early. I have something I can't put off. So I wish everybody a beautiful rest of your Sunday afternoon. God bless you, and vote PPC.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Natasha, for agreeing to do this and come on. And you've been a great help with preparation and everything. So I really appreciate that. Thank you to everyone who listened. And I think we're going to still see a hand up there, go. But we got to wrap this up. I have some stuff I got to do too. So with that,